morning. Welcome to the Facilities Committee meeting on March, what are we, 9th? 10th? I don't even know. 10th, sorry. First item on the agenda is discussion of the Darian High School Stadium Lights Agreement. So we have been tasked to review the agreement regarding the conditions of approval from Planning and Zoning. And in reviewing it, I think at least one person's opinion is that the agreement is very prescriptive in there are sections that talk about having certain games by certain teams. And personally, I think that should be the purview of the Board of Education and not the Planning and Zoning Commission. As well as there are a few other minor elements like talking about that we can only use them on the 4th of July. And I'm not sure we use them on the 4th of July with the fireworks, and it's normally a different day. So I think that it just needs to kind of be cleaned up. So if we can kind of go through that today, I think it would be great. Alan, do you have any comments or?
No, it just would be, good morning, everyone. It just would be nice to, advance the discussion with recommendations or otherwise. So happy to participate. And I'm sure we'll have recommendations if that's what the Board of Education would like to receive from the administration as part of that process.
Okay. And before I continue, I think the first part is I think we've had a great relationship with the neighborhood, and we're very happy with the relationship that we've had. I think the neighbors are happy with the way we've stuck to our word with our agreement and not have overdone that. And by no means do I think we are looking to overwhelm and change the tone of the agreement, and we're just trying to clean it up.
Yeah, and if I may,
Please.
I have an interesting advantage because I served as planning and zoning chair as this application went through the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I think, the role of the Board of Education is care, custody, control over its facilities. And at the time, for whatever reasons, the superintendent and the board thought that there should be a binding agreement, a standstill agreement for 5 years. And that put in motion the special permit application and final resolution of the conditions that were outlined in the January 17th, 2017 approval. As we know, and as we've been briefed, this agreement will go away, if you will, with the neighbors. So, if I may suggest that when we bring this to the board and discuss the conditions, we refer to the adopted resolution with the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I know they seem one and the same, but the agreement that was signed with the neighbors will, in fact, dissipate if we do go to planning and zoning and we do get approved for amendment. So I think, just from a process standpoint, I think it's better if we again, they're the same thing, but when we kind of discuss it, we focus on the final resolution and what we might do as a board in changing some of these conditions, which you so rightly said, Dennis, limits the district in doing what it should be able to do, and that's have proper care, custody, control over this. I just might add, I think it's important that we do get input from the community, just like traditional field use. Field use under the light is both used as a resource for the school district as well as the community. And then, of course, get comments from the neighbors. But I concur. I don't think there's a large, significant change to the structure of light use and the days and the times. I don't think anybody's looking for that. But to your point, looking to quote unquote clean it up would be, I think, a good thing for this board to do.
Yeah, John and Dennis, just
Mike.
Thank you. Just to review, so there's two different issues. Both of you have just outlined that the agreement itself is somewhat prescriptive, and while we are probably looking to keep the overall parameters the same, how those parameters are exercised, we're looking to give that authority to the school. But the other piece, and just so that I understand the nomenclature correctly, is we have a standstill agreement, and we actually would like to have a special permit. Is that correct? Can you explain?
Yeah, again, so the standstill agreement is in conjunction, in basically, as I understand it, in 2017, the agreement was formed with the neighbors. And a resolution between the neighbors and the district and the Board of Education was reached, as long as the conditions of the agreement were included in the special permit.
Okay,
So the special permit does exist.
okay,
It's a planning and zoning approval.
Okay.
We would, in any shape, way, or form, if we change one line in this, we would have to go to the planning and zoning commission
mhm,
for a
Right.
formal application.
right,
The agreement with the neighbors, once we do that, though, would dissipate. There would be no agreement, and because that's the way the agreement is written, as I understand it. Yeah, personally, and it'd be a strong recommendation of the board, we should not enter into another standstill agreement, if you will.
mhm,
That should just dissipate. We shouldn't tie the hands of future boards if, they want to make changes. And that's something we can discuss as a board. Clearly, it's not something we're going to do as a committee here. But it's a strong recommendation on my part as a board member that we don't enter into another standstill agreement. But with the full understanding, again, in communication with the community, that we're not looking to change the parameters of the use of lights all that
Right.
much.
right. So, again, in terms of best practice, can you talk a little bit, just picking your brain here, because you were on PNC, the standstill agreements, where do you sit on that in general as a use of that as a tool? What was your experience?
I mean, I'm adamantly against them. I mean, I don't want to rehash history too much, but it was done without the knowledge of the commission or the board of selectmen or the town in general.
Right,
It's kind of done behind the scenes and then it
right,
appeared.
right.
As a public official, tying the hands of future public officials, I don't think is a good idea.
Okay.
I realize it does bring some comfort to a small group of people that, change won't happen over this time period. But I think at this juncture and the way the lights have been used and in this particular issue, I think the district, the community has proven itself. The technology has been remarkably amazing. I don't think any of us expected how great that LED lighting would be to contain the lights. And so it's just, again, managing around the use of lights, giving the board and the administration proper control over the facility without binding any of our future boards. That's my opinion.
Mike and Alan, do we have any other standstill agreements around our facilities that exist, or is this the only one? Or Rich, whoever knows this?
Sarah, do you have any comments or questions? No. Okay. So how does the committee want to do this? Do we want to throw this to Alan and the team to kind of go through what they feel should be corrected, or do we want to point them in that direction of where?
Yeah, I think at this juncture, unless Alan, you have a different view, I would just like to go through the adopted resolution, just point out the areas that we should be discussing as a board. We've given a little recommendations here. I think, you've mentioned the July 4th lights. So I think, literally in a way, just take a highlighter to this document and just so we can bring it forth to the board and say, okay, these are the areas that we should consider. And Alan and your team, you can come back, with input from Chris as well. Is there certain things that don't work adequately or optimally for the use of the lights, i.e., I'm just guessing, but the restrictions on which games are played, only varsity games, no JV games, that sort of thing. We as board members should go through and, knowing our community and see if we have any adjustments. Your example of July 4th is a good one. It's clear an attorney wrote this without knowledge of the fireworks, right? We tend not to do it on July 4th, but it's a lot cheaper if you don't do it on July 4th, as I understand it. And there's a lot of other things going on July 4th. And then we can also ask the community as a board for some input. And, Alan and Duke can kind of work through how they want to structure like a community discussion or public discussion or something like that, or just ask for emails. But I think if that makes sense, we should just maybe go through the document.
Highlights you want to, I'm
Well,
looking at section 2, proposed conditions of approval for lighting facilities plan.
Okay, so which document, just so we're on.
I'm using the document from that was forwarded to all.
Okay,
Since
so
that's
you're,
what we have.
okay, so you're using the agreement regarding the conditions of approval. Okay. Okay, so, I'm sorry. And again, that this will, there's different section numbers in the adopted resolution, but we can go to that document during the board meeting.
Right,
and
but
kind of
since all we
reconcile.
have is
Yes,
this now, I think this is what we should be
Okay.
using. So,
Okay, go ahead. So,
so I'm looking at section 2, proposed conditions of approval for lighting facilities plan, as you brought up as well. Number 6, only DHS varsity games will be played under the lights. Not sure we do that or we want to do that. I mean, why couldn't it be a club or?
yeah, let's go through it.
Different
If we could
Are you gonna start at the
yeah,
top?
just go through
Go
the
ahead.
stop, the top, and, we'll just put check marks next to each one. So,
John, could you just clarify, sorry again, just which document we're working from, sorry.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Alan, we
Sorry,
couldn't hear you.
could you
Sorry.
just clarify which document we're working from, please?
Oh, yeah, so it is agreement regarding conditions of approval. It's the one you
You sent-
circulated,
You sent in the packet.
Okay, all right, okay.
and it looks to be section 2.
4.5 appendix proposed conditions.
Oh, yes, yes, that's where I'm, yep.
Okay, so we're section 2A, field use when lighting facilities in use. Only Darian sports and Darian nonprofit youth sports organizations will be permitted. That seems like a reasonable,
Reasonable
unless
request.
the administration says they've been approached and, a big moneymaker, but I would doubt that. Youth practices, you go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
So youth practices, I think is okay for me. Youth games, I don't know, maybe it's something the community would want to weigh in on. No adult league play for me is okay personally. If anyone has any comments, please feel free to jump in. And then DHS athletic teams must be participating in all contests. Again, I think is okay unless we have a question if we want to host a CIAC playoff game, but I think we would do that only when we are the hosts. But I leave that up to Alan and maybe Mr. Manfredonia. And then the last one for me is a question mark, is only varsity games will be played under the lights. Again, I don't know that we wouldn't want to do a club or a JV game or something like that. So to me, again, that would be a question to the administration to look into that.
Just Roman numeral 5, DHS athletic teams, if for some reason we go to allow youth sports to have games under lights, we would just want to change that language.
Okay.
Something to call out.
I think it's probably worth just taking out, I think we know the answer, but just understanding what our field utilization is, because I think because our field utilization is so high, some of these things are irrelevant. Like, we don't need the revenue from, for example, an adult league. And we don't have the time, I believe, to accommodate an adult league anyway. So I think for us at this point in time, Mike, please correct me if I'm wrong, that's sort of an irrelevant point. It might be something future boards would be interested in, but
We don't have any adult.
Yeah.
So,
and the fields are utilized
well,
100%, aren't they? Yeah. I think it would just be worth knowing that in the conversation.
Good point.
You know,
Yeah.
our utilization is at probably 101% or something.
Any other questions there?
Nope, keep going.
So section B, time limitations. Lights will remain off on Saturdays and Sundays with the exception of FCAC playoff or championship games.
So like, again, FCAC, it would be
CIAC.
CIAC, or, you would maybe even just take that word out because again, it was clearly somebody wrote this that didn't understand there's CIAC playoff games as well. So, another nit to fix. If we decide to keep that, and the question is, are there youth organizations that might want to use lights on Saturday evenings or something like that?
Right.
And again, I'm not going to weigh in on but that's something the board should discuss.
That's number 2, practices and other activities will be Monday through Friday with lights off by 7:30. Again, I think 7:30 is a little early for me. But again, that may be a discussion if we want to pursue going further with that. Number 3, in the event Darian high school games that were appropriately scheduled to start by 4 p.m. and 5:30 game 2 and end by 7:30, but could not finish within the prescribed 7:30 time, allowances will be made for completion of the game regardless of the hour of completion. So to me, this kind of is a bit messy.
How does it, sorry,
Yeah, please. Jill.
Mike, how does that work for you guys, or Rich, whoever, or Alan? That particular bullet.
It doesn't really affect us, you know, it's a little, game runs a little longer, the people help them with the parking and stuff, just work a little longer and.
Okay.
You know, they can turn the lights on and off pretty easily.
Okay,
Clearly, the time frame was an issue, and they added a provision to, in the event that the time frame. So
Right.
again, if you change the time frame, that wouldn't even have to exist.
okay.
Yeah, I also, wonder if we did something like this, would this handcuff future boards from changing school start times to a later time? If lights have to be shut off and they can't have a game, it seems a little silly to have a field usage decide whether or not we could change our school. Not that we're planning on changing school opening times, but it may be a future discussion at some point. So.
Okay.
Number 4, lights will remain off from the end of the CIAC fall season until the
Sorry.
beginning. Yes, please.
Going back to that 7:30, do we know why that number was chosen? Is it just a quality of life? Is that what it was?
It was my understanding as part of the agreement, and that was one of the concerns, that you don't have lights on until 11 p.m. and that was the time that was agreed upon. Again, brought forth after the agreement was signed to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So again, just to be clear, like the Planning and Zoning Commission did not have really any leeway,
Right.
because basically the applicant presented
Oh, something.
the agreement already there. So at the time, it was like, okay, the agreement struck, he didn't get to weigh in on quality of life or anything like that.
Any other questions here?
No, sorry.
Okay. So number 4, lights will remain off from the end of the CIAC fall season until the beginning of the CIAC spring season. And from B, from the end of the CIAC spring season to the beginning of the CIAC fall season.
That's just basically, you don't have lights on in the winter and the summer.
Right. I think we're okay with that. But again, 5, Friday night games can extend until 10 p.m. Each varsity team will have the opportunity to play no more than 2 games per season on a Friday night, exclusive of mandated playoff games.
So this is one where, you're allowing Friday night games, but you're prescribing how many games per team. It was, I think, as you guys have witnessed, like it's been a tremendous community asset of having soccer games, field hockey games, football games. But to prescribe how many per team, I think is a little overly prescriptive and the item that I want to discuss as a board.
Can we get a little color on that? What does that end up looking like? Do we find that, are there Fridays where there are no games being played?
That's exactly what ends up happening.
Okay,
You know, you have, there's varsity lacrosse, 2 varsity soccer, field hockey and football, so that's only 12 games a year spread over 2 seasons,
okay,
over maybe 20 weekends.
okay,
So there are Friday nights where there's no activity on that field.
okay. So when this comes to the board, can we see that documented so that we understand what the usage looks like, please, on Friday nights?
Mr. Chairman and Jill, I think that all of these will be reviewed closely with Mr. Manfredoni in terms of all of the implications.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. C, evening games. Each varsity will be assigned 2 regular game dates. In fall, that includes boys and girls soccer, field hockey, and football. In the spring, it includes boys and girls lacrosse, with each team receiving 2 games. This totals 12 night games. Again, for me, this is very prescriptive of the planning and zoning, basically the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Board of Education, how they run their field usage. So,
Yep.
Number 2, in addition to the 12 regular night games, playoff games are estimated to average an additional 5 games per year and are permitted during the evening. I'm not sure what that is, or do we go to 17, or I'm not sure how it seems a little.
It was a prescriptive condition that they had to add another condition to allow a little leeway for playoffs. So you can see how this these provisions kind of pile up on each other and sometimes even contradict one another.
Great. Any questions on those? C?
Again, I assume that the purpose was then to limit, I guess, traffic and usage. Is that,
Well, be careful, like you're only shifting traffic and usage. I mean, as a condition of the special permit, you can't intensify use at the site.
okay,
But the reality is you're just shifting games. All these practices and all this activity happened at the high school, just consolidated under daylight hours.
okay,
It actually, you know, one of the arguments was because you're elongating use of the facility, you're de-intensifying it because the traffic's not piling up on one another. There's a little more leeway in the hours as again, as I think we discussed 5 years ago. So it's,
okay,
yeah, and again, that was a concern. I mean, you know, let's not put every sports activity at Darian High School under the lights. And so there is a provision about intensity use in the special permit. We're going down in the weeds of
okay.
planning and zoning now. Sorry.
No, I asked.
Not a hat that I chose to wear, so. D, lighting facilities limited to football stadium. Section 1, no other field at the Darian High School property may be lit or illuminated for evening, athletic, or other activities.
So this, again, was something that basically ties the hands of the Board of Education, the district. There's also something in this provision where they can't pursue lighting of any other school field. It was done under the auspices of lighting creep. But, you know, that's kind of, again, a standstill restriction that I don't think is appropriate to put on a school board or a administration. Not that there's any intent right now, but who knows for the future, so.
Okay.
Any other questions on that? Okay, 3, proposed conditions for new balanced sound system. A, audio specifications. 1, the PA system will be permitted to be used only during DHS games. Music of the PA system is allowable only prior to DHS games. Music is not allowable during practices. Music from the high school band incidental to the game, e.g. musical cheer or score on scoring, will be allowable throughout the entirety of all DHS varsity games. However, performance by the marching band in the event that a marching band was formed in the future would be limited to halftime and or prior to the game. Similar to the current DHS band, a marching band could play throughout the game from the bleachers. All band practice will be limited to daytime hours. So I have a question on this is, do we use the PA system for graduation? Does anyone know?
Jeff would know.
No,
No.
not that particular case.
Okay,
Uses a
We bring
different-
it on a separate form for on.
thank you.
Just for the record, Mr. Tomeo said, from the booth, said, no, they bring in a separate PA system for graduation.
Is that because that's better for graduation, or is that because of this agreement? Do we bring in a separate PA system because we have to, or is it actually more effective?
It's more effective.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
It's more
The
effective.
direction of the Senate.
okay, thank you very much.
But again, I think ties us, again, I don't think we're looking to have, music blasting throughout the PA system, but if you wanted to run a pep rally, you wanted to use a PA system, it seems like that would be a reasonable request for the school to do.
Yeah, legally, and I'm not an attorney, but it does delve into almost true controlling of, basically the curriculum of the school district. So, if you peel this back, what I think it was trying to achieve is like, let's not crank tunes or the PA system for youth sports games. And I would highly, agree with that. But let's find a way to take that paragraph and put it into one line. And just allow for our high school use in some way, shape, or form.
Number 2, operation of the PA system must comply with the sound pressure levels as presented by the applicant and depicted on Exhibit A1 attached here, which is Appendix 4.4, sound pressure levels and applicant's application material.
So there was a supporting document, I think, that gave the provisions of this sound. Hold it, I had it here. Give it to you, just so you can get it. It's the application for DHS Stadium Lighting Project, the project narrative Actually, all three of these documents are right on the P&Z department page, if anybody's looking for it. Alan, I think I might have sent you the link, but I'll
Yeah, you
resend
did, yep.
it to you. But it's really easy, all three documents, the agreement, the narrative, and the special permit. So just for those out there. So again, I think it gets a little detailed.
Right. And then,
You're going to use a sound system that was installed, basically, is what it's saying. We're not going
to enhance it.
Yeah, is that something that that sounds like in the, like hard coding, like, is that something that should be written more broadly to honor the point, but not specify which sound system?
Yes. I mean, that's something we'll probably work with the, you're probably going to, the board should recommend to the administration that as we kind of draft this, that we bounce it off the attorneys to school attorneys. But yes, I think that's a good point.
And then section 4, project monitoring. A compliance committee will be formed at the outset of each fall season, chaired by the director of facilities, including not more than 2 DHS neighbors chosen by abutting neighbors from the north and east sides of the property to review issues of noncompliance that are registered by committee members and any other concerns that may arise. The compliance committee may make recommendations to Darian High School concerning alleged noncompliance or impacts associated with the approved permanent lighting facility and new balanced sound or PA system. The compliance committee shall be advisory only and will meet at least one time per year as needed to ensure compliance with any approval conditions. Mr. Lynch, this occurs regularly or once a year, correct?
Yes, we meet
Yes.
in November in superintendent's office, Chris Manfredonia, myself, superintendent, and the neighbors. And we have a nice discussion about how the last year went. Fine.
Perfect.
I like that concept.
Right. I think that that allows us to be the good neighbors that we're trying to be, and also allows feedback to come back to us. So, okay. And then last is the time frame. The conditions provided in this exhibit shall apply to the approved permanent lighting facility and PA system for a period of 5 years. From the effective date of this approval, during this 5-year time period, the Therian Board of Education agrees not to submit nor consent to the submission of any application to the Planning and Zoning Commission seeking to modify any condition contained herein that would be less or more restrictive unless such modification is required to comply with any law or approval to install, construct, or use permanent or temporary lighting facilities or an upgraded PA system in any other field, including a track located at the Darian High School property or any other Board of Education property. After the 5-year period, the conditions contained herein shall remain in effect unless the Board of Education allows an application with the Planning and Zoning Commission seeking A, approval to modify, change, or eliminate any condition contained herein, or B, approval for any new or upgraded permanent or temporary lighting facilities or PA systems on the DHS property or other Board of Education property.
So that's basically the outline of how this agreement terminates, as we discussed earlier. So that certainly would be in the application, to amend the adopted resolution.
Any other questions or comments? That's it for the agreement there.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we didn't miss anything that's in the agreement or in the final adopted resolution and not covered in the agreement. But again, we'll probably, we recommend, we'll make sure that we have this adopted resolution document because that is the document that we're going to be amending or seeking to amend with the board. Alan, do you ask about, I guess, the process, going forward? What's the schedule that the board would discuss this, and how would we, notify the community that we want to get some comments as well?
So we basically, I think it's 23rd, 22nd is the next meeting. So you have time to notify people. It also as a courtesy to the neighbors who are noted in that agreement. I would have to speak to them, obviously. It'll also be very important that we're very clear here about both from a administrative point of view, what we would like to see or not, but from a board point of view, like what are the issues from the board that they're most concerned about? And I want to make sure we're talking about, are we talking about eliminating potentially or just revising, just to be clear?
Revise which document, Alan? I'm sorry. We're looking to revise, at least this is my view. We're looking to revise the special permit.
Yes.
Okay. In doing so, the agreement actually states that the agreement goes away once we file that proposed amendment to the Planning and Zoning Commission. It'd be, again, I'm one of 9 members on the board, and we can discuss it as a board, but it'd be my strong recommendation that we don't enter in a standstill agreement, but we communicate to the, those that are concerned that, they'll see what we're trying to amend, and we're not looking to change anything in the near future. I don't think there's any plans for additional lights at any of the school facilities that I've heard of in the community, but we also don't want to tie people's hands if they do find a reason to pursue that. So that answer your question from my standpoint?
Yes, I think from a communication point of view, I'm not so sure even though I talk about the next upcoming board meeting, that maybe at that board meeting the board decides to share the actual process itself for community members and so on, so that it's officially noticed at a meeting, so that the neighbors and or members of youth organizations and the general community really have a good idea and a good notice of what's to come at the following meeting.
Sounds good.
I can't hear very well for some reason. Can you repeat that?
So basically, Alan said the next board meeting, we kind of do what we've done as a board, highlight the areas that we would look to change.
Okay.
And at that meeting, notice the community that we're looking for input.
Okay.
And then the following meeting, if I understood you correctly, Alan, have some sort of community discussion.
Yeah. Final
board discussion.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, they can always send emails and communications that way as well. So
Okay.
Yes, I mean, at this point, I don't know that. I think the benefit of well, one, we need to close it out. I mean, we've been talking about it, so it's important to complete the circle in some capacity. But also, I don't know at the expense of not giving people the opportunity and proper notice that just to take a meeting and outline clearly what's going to happen at that following meeting.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
We agree.
So I think it's really important that we're very, very clear about what the goals are. So I think we should decide on, the committee should be very clear about why we've embarked on this discussion. So I would document it as the 3 goals would be: 1, to honor the spirit of the agreement; 2, to revise the special permit and eliminate the standstill agreement, meaning that mechanism of standstill. And then the 3rd would be to return appropriate decision-making to the district. And so I think we need to be very, very, very clear every time we talk about why we're embarking on this discussion. So I think when we present it to the board, it could be with kind of those 3 goals at the forefront, what we're trying to do.
And I think, you summarized it well. So make sure you send that out to everybody, please. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't think there's any intent for wholesale change to the conditions. There's tweaks, there's cleanup. And to your point, return that autonomy in terms of managing the fields. I mean, I just think of how the fields are managed during the day and there aren't many conditions imposed. And so just extend that kind of autonomy through the whole time period that the fields will be used, including the lights. Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Sheeny, I would say that you're correct in that. But what we just haven't worked with the community members and the neighbors, the tweaks that I've heard, right, that potentially administration might recommend, board recommend, or otherwise, in their eyes might be more significant than tweaks. So I just point that out. Doesn't mean to say we're not going to do it or we're not going to support it, but I just know that some of them are going to be potentially significant issues for the neighbors, which is, that they may well be, but.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know what decision the board's going to come to. So, yeah, all them tweaks myself, but some even on the board might find them significant. So, yeah, again, we're looking, in my mind, our roles as Board of Education do the best interests. We represent the community in general, a broad swath of, when managing this facility, a broad swath of people. So, including the neighbors.
So in addition to the goals, we also want to see, I think, do we want the board to walk through, or do we want kind of to give an outline to the board of what we've identified as the areas that require a second look, and then any supporting documentation? So I think we've identified timing, usage of fields, number of games per team, band use, and the sound system. I might be missing some things.
The fireworks too.
Fireworks. Maybe we want just a brief outline to the board so that we can direct what people are looking at. And then to confirm, like fireworks, we should probably see historically when fireworks are held. I think the community knows, but band usage, could we just get a little statement from the music director? Alan?
Yep.
Thank you.
Well, we can have responses to if the subcommittee so desires, we can have a response to the administrative response to those for next week. That are for the next board meeting. That's okay. We can have that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And Mr. Manfredonia to weigh in on the field usage of specific teams and so on.
And that makes the most sense because that's a priority of what we care most about, if you will. I mean, it's important the community has access to the facility, but number one priority is that we're managing the facility in the best interest of our students and, the programs at the high school.
Yeah. Is talking about revenue relevant at all for this discussion?
For me.
Not for
No,
you guys?
I think this is a policy discussion, not a.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions or comments? Alan, you're clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that. I think our next item was public comment.
For participants via Zoom, please click the raise hand option. Each participant will have up to 3 minutes to comment. There are no raised hands at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mrs. Buchanan, Mrs. Sini, so moved. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
a
Thanks,
great
Alan.
night.
Feel
Thank
better.
you, guys.